Hey YouTube, Bert here, aka Freedom Voice. I wanted to do another video here. This is going to be sort of like another reaction video, and I'll be doing these videos from time to time because I think it's good for two reasons. One, it gives us sort of ammunition on how to deal with these circumstances as TIs, but also it creates awareness in the public's eye. So I want to feature this news report that came on just recently, actually, of this person, this individual, this family rather, that was sort of being attacked by their neighbor using chemicals. He was actually injecting chemicals into their apartment. And this happens to TIs. I see a lot of the comments from my video. And so I wanted to kind of feature it here, and I wanted to kind of show us all how to deal with this. So I'm going to go ahead and run the video now at this point.
All right, new tonight here at 10 o'clock, a pretty incredible story of a family of three wondering why their baby daughter kept getting sick and why they had a strange odor in their home. Was it their apartment? Was it the water? Well, when they saw this, a man injecting some sort of chemical through the bottom of their door into their home, they knew their lives could be in jeopardy.
All right, I want to stop there, and I want to point out the fact that it was a neighbor. I want to point out the fact that he was using a syringe, and I want to point out the fact that he's using chemicals. If this is evident that this happens, guys. You know, I see the comments. I hear a lot of people talking about it. I get a lot of questions from a lot of subscribers. They're wondering, what should they do? Does this really happen? What should they do about it? How can they handle it? So I want us, as we continue watching this news report here on Fox 13 that just recently came out. I mean, we're talking within the last couple weeks, I believe. It really gives us an understanding on how to deal with this. So I'm going to continue the video.
Fox 13's Janae Lewis is here with us in studio tonight with this story. Janae, we're speechless here.
Yeah, it's hard to watch that video and not feel any other way. The family says the excitement they had of moving into their new home quickly turned into terror, and you saw why. As a frustrated neighbor took his concerns too far, now they're afraid to be inside that very home.
All right, I want to stop right there, and I want to also point out the fact that they had just moved into this house. And, you know, I would argue the fact that this didn't just start. Maybe they just got airtime regarding the situation. They probably moved to this new house trying to get away from it from their previous house. More than likely, this didn't just start. However, there are other facts to this report that I think are very telling. And part of that includes the family's daughter, baby daughter, I guess, making a lot of noise, crying, and things of that nature at nighttime. And I think this kind of sort of fueled the whole attack. So I want to continue with the video here.
It is extremely scary.
Umar Abdullah says it's very difficult to talk about the last few months. He says it started with complaints from a downstairs neighbor over noise.
So after my daughter was born in August last year, his complaint, like footstep complaint, drawer closing,
but escalated to this.
All right, so very important here, guys. I want to point out the fact that the neighbor started complaining because he started hearing the noise when his daughter was born back in October last year. So the way he handled the problem, we're talking the neighbor that would inject the chemicals. The way he handled the problem was he started slamming doors and drawers. And that's what they said here on the report. The news agency said that, representative said that. So we know that that does happen. That is a tactic that they use. Again, this comes out of a playbook, guys. This is nothing new. This is nothing extraordinary. This happens to a lot of people. And as you can see here, it's happening to this gentleman. But I want us to notice how he handled the problem. I want to keep playing the video.
Called a hidden camera outside because we were suspecting someone is basically tampering our place from outside. And then we caught our neighbor injecting something through our door.
He says a friend noticed an unusual chemical odor in their home in May. They checked the appliances, hoping to determine the source of the smell, but couldn't. A month later, Umar says his eyes started to burn and his daughter was coughing and throwing up. He says the smell had returned, so he checked the water heater nearby, finding a strong odor.
I was bending down. I sniffed all through that place. And
after replacing it, Umar says the odor and discomfort returned. This is when he set up the hidden camera.
On June 27th.
All right, so he set up a hidden camera, which I think is very important. I can't stress that enough. You'd be surprised what you're able to find out just by setting up a camera, even if it's just a simple camera. In this case, he used sort of looked like a high-tech, very small miniature camera that was able to capture a wide range. It looks like high definition because this is a very clear picture, but also a very, very important key feature in the camera, in the video, and that is the date and the time. Very, very important. I want to stress that. I want to emphasize that, because if you ever have to go to court because of this type of harassment, this actually will be entered as court evidence. I mean, it is considered legal, binding court evidence in a case. So it's very important that if you're going to take footage, even if it's footage in your car, I know I do it in my car, you have to have those features in the video, the date, the time, and if I'm in the car, I also use the GPS. And maybe I'll talk more about that and I'll show my camera setup. I want to continue the video.
I found that our neighbor is coming with a syringe. He's pulling something from a vial and then he's injecting through our entry door. If we could not have found that incident on the camera, probably after a few days, we might have been just dead.
Now, with this evidence, now he can take the neighbor to court. He can deal with this on a legal, he can get a restraining order. A lot can happen as a result of having this. And the interesting thing about it is the neighbor that came up with the syringe, I mean, he stood there in order to pull the chemical agent into the syringe. He faced the camera, which is huge because you can see his face. He did not try to obstruct his face at all. Not only that, I mean, you can tell that he's attempting to cause harm because it was all premeditated. It was all planned. So this is really good evidence. I want to continue.
Police and records show Zooming Lee was arrested and charged with multiple counts of battery and possession of a controlled substance.
All right, I want to stop there. He called the police. Okay. This would be step number 2. Step number 1, set up your camera if possible, just like he did here. Step number 2, get the evidence, call the police, and press charges. Now, notice the charges. This is very, very important, guys. This is the reason why I'm doing this video, because if you look at the screen here, there are actually 4 counts, 4 offenses. If you look at the top, offense number 1 includes battery. Offense number 2 is battery, but also offense number 3, aggravated stalking. You can see the penal code there, 130C-29, aggravated stalking. You can press those charges on people that do this if you have the evidence. Again, having the evidence, knowing who did it, having clear identifying video or pictures or any type of evidence that can be used to press the charges will allow you to get these charges and get the person arrested. And that is exactly what happened here. Number 4 is possession of a controlled substance. Now, I get a lot of people, again, writing comments on my video regarding chemical harassment, you know, whether or not chemicals can be used in gang stalking or to TIs. And I tell them absolutely, they are used. They are either, you know, as in this case, they're injected into the apartment. In other cases, they can be injected into water, into drink, into food, things of that nature. If you can get the evidence, you can press these same charges, right? Let's continue.
The report identified him as a USF student. A spokesperson from USF says he is no longer enrolled as of this summer. He was a PhD student in the chemistry department.
If people use their knowledge, this extreme knowledge, to harm people, I mean, they can be even more dangerous.
Now, that's a key point here. This guy's a PhD student. He's in chemistry. You know, this guy's very knowledgeable. He's very educated. He knows about chemicals. Like he said here, if people use their knowledge, use their expertise, use their degree, in order to harass people or to carry out gang stalking in this fashion, they can be extremely dangerous. Want to continue.
Says he was told Zooming is in the process of relocating, but they're still very uneasy, never thinking their home would become a place they now fear.
I can never expect a neighbor. I mean, I can never imagine to expect something like that happen to anyone. I wish no one else would have to go through a situation like this ever in their life.
Now, let me say this. Always expect your neighbor. Always. Always expect whoever's doing it is very close to you. And when I say always expect your neighbor, I don't mean be paranoid. I don't mean be constantly accusing a neighbor. But never think that it's going to be an enemy far away. It's always someone who's close by watching. Someone who has access to your goings and your comings. Your family. They're looking. Usually when they attack, the attack is not isolated. The attack is over a period of time. They study everything you do. Just like this gentleman did here. He studied this family. He knew when they left. He knew when they came home. He knew exactly what chemicals to use. And he got them so riled up and so afraid that even though he's been arrested, they still cannot rest at ease in their home because they still believe that this could happen again. Again, I would suspect that this is not the first time this happened. I would suspect that it happened many times before. So this is something that we want to keep in mind. Again, I want to recap here. Number one, get your evidence. Set up a camera if possible. Number two, get the evidence. Make sure the camera footage has day, time stamp. That way it can be used in a legal court of law. And then secondly, after you get your evidence, know the penal codes, press the charges necessary. And if one by one we can take down these perpetrators, one by one, it will cause them so much fear, just like it did in the case of this USF student. It'll cause so much fear and so much apprehension that they'll think twice about doing it. Now, again, I know that this doesn't always go down this way, but it represents a good example on how to handle this type of attack. All right, I'm going to play the video out here.
Umar says several agencies are now investigating, waiting for final lab reports to determine the exact substance that was injected, but he says they were hazardous chemicals. The family is hoping to relocate, but as we report all the time, housing isn't the easiest to find right now. In the studio, Janae Lewis, Fox 13 News.
So the family's going to relocate. And again, this is not the first time it happened. If you remember in the story, early on in the story, it said they had just moved into the house. Now they got to relocate again. You can know for sure that when they get to their new place, they're not going to be able to rest easy because they're going to really be, I'm sure, concerned about their neighbors, even in their next home. So this is something to keep in mind. They have a lot of different cameras set up, and I think one day I'm going to do a whole video dedicated to types of cameras that can be used to collect evidence. So until next time, take care.